When I first started my career in 2013, I was confident and ready to make that career move. But what I wasn't ready for was all of the inevitable ups, downs, trials, victories, and all of the other wonderful things that we face when building a sustainable business. It's super rewarding, but I also know how tough it can be, so I thought I would share some of my experiences with you today. Hey, what's happening, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I'm gonna share with you 5 things I wish I knew when first diving into my career as a full-time filmmaker. Let's get into it. When making a living with a camera in any format, there will be a client that wants to hire you. But here's an important thing to remember, and that is the client is definitely gonna wanna know that you are the right person for the job. So the first tip I have for you today is to have a proof of concept, or portfolio, in other words. This could be on a webpage or a YouTube channel where you would showcase all of your work, or a demo reel that will really represent your work very quickly all at once. Having one of these will really showcase your work and show the client your abilities as a filmmaker. Now, this is a great start, but it doesn't actually stop there. The client also wants to get to know who you are personally. Because we are working with people, the client wants to know if your personalities will work well together or if they'll clash. Will you understand their vision properly? And are you easy to work with, just to name a few. So another thing that I recommend is just to add a section on your website or wherever you are to showcase who you are as a person. This can be as simple as adding a really nice photo of you and a bio about you and who you are, your experience, your passion for the craft, and all of the wonderful things that make up who you are. Now, this might look different depending on the type of work that you're doing, but in my experience, this has been a game changer because it allows the client to get to know you and your work before ever entering into the client meeting. But what if you're just starting out and you don't have a portfolio, or you want to update your portfolio but you don't have any gigs lined up? What do you do then? I actually get this question a lot, and my answer is always the same, and that is to film some spec projects. I've talked a little bit about this in another video, and I'll link that down in the description below if you're interested in learning more. But having a portfolio isn't a guarantee that you will get the job. Depending on the type of work that you do, there's gonna be a whole lot more that you might need to do in preparation for pitching your client to land the gig. And it also boils down to the way you handle the client meeting. But having a proof of concept or portfolio will definitely give you a head start. But all of this actually leads to my next thing, and that is invoicing versus gifting the project. Let's start with invoicing. At the beginning of our careers, it's really hard to know what to charge because it's hard to know what our work is worth. If you're anything like me, it's really hard to put a price tag on something that I thoroughly enjoy doing anyway. However, this could be a little overwhelming when the client work does start to roll in, which in turn can make the negotiations very stressful and maybe lead to you pricing out your work at a lower rate than you had originally planned. So what do? You definitely want to charge what you are worth according to the amount of knowledge that you have and the experience that you have. But I also want to encourage you that once you have that figured out, to be confident in your pricing and the work that you could do and your abilities, because that is going to reflect really well on the client, especially for those higher tier, higher paying jobs that will start to roll in over time. It's definitely important to know your value and how to price yourself out, but you might be asking, where do I start? Well, let's talk about that. The truth is that there is a lot that goes into making a video, and it's important to remember these things and use that as a base for how much your work is worth. These could be things like invoicing, writing contracts, editing, color grading, music licensing, all of your meetings and phone calls, just to name a few. And not to mention your knowledge and skill set, the things that you've learned over the years, and any other overhead that you might have. All of these take time and resources and are definitely things to consider when pricing out a job. But more practically, here's what I do. I take all of that and also consider how much my time is worth. In other words, how much is it worth to pull myself away from all the other things that I have going on? For us here, we have a whole team and client work that comes in, and so I have to divide my time into a lot of different categories. This means that I might be pulling myself away from growing my business or this YouTube channel, the time that I spend with our interns and make sure that they're learning things that add value to their lives, as well as time with my family and my kids and my wife. This is all to be considered. I actually take all of these things and I add them into an hourly rate. Now, this is going to depend on the type of work that you do, your skill set, and where you are personally on your journey. But if you could figure out how much that hourly rate is and calculate how many hours it might take for you to complete the project, and then consider in your overhead and the profit that you would need to make to sustain your business, and then take that total number to to your client. Now, on the flip side, you also have gifting the project. Now, I might do this if I have a friend or a family member that I want to just help out, but I have to make sure that I have that time available to gift them that project. I'm not always going to say yes, but most of the time I do. Another reason you might do this is because someone presents you with a project that you actually truly believe in and you just want to be a part of it. Another really great reason for gifting a project is just to get your foot in the door with a certain brand or a person that could potentially lead to higher paying jobs and bigger opportunities in the future. Gifting your work is definitely up to you and how much time you want to put into that. I have a select amount of hours that I put aside for free work like that. It's just because I want to help as many people as I possibly can with this gift that I've been given to be able to make videos. So I have a dedicated time for that, but I also have to run the business and make sure it's sustainable for my team and for my family. So I put a little bit of a limit on that to try and maintain that as much as possible. You could also use that into your portfolio, and that way you have something to show other potential clients, hey, this is who I've worked with in town, and giving you better and bigger opportunities in the future. Okay, and tip number 3 is renting versus purchasing your camera gear. Now, this is something that's talked about a lot in these types of videos, but hear me out. First, I just wanted to say that if you need something, then of course, go out and buy it. You're gonna need a camera or good lighting or a great microphone in order to make videos in the first place. And so if you need those things, then definitely go out and buy it. However, I suggest only doing so if you have the budget for it, or you know that those things are gonna pay themselves off in future projects immediately. However, if you don't have the budget or the job's coming in, or you just wanna save up for the camera you want, then another option is to rent the camera gear that you need for any specific job. This could be at a local rental house if you have one of those, but if you don't, then there's plenty of places online that you can go. There's a few that I like to go to if I'm considering renting camera gear. I'll leave links to those in the description below if you're interested. Renting out the camera gear that you might need for a specific job is typically significantly less than going out and purchasing the camera gear outright, and is a really great way to get your hands on certain camera gear that you may want to try out or are not sure about before you buy it. Now, I love gear just as much as any other filmmaker. I actually went out and bought a ton of gear, especially in the beginning, because first of all, I didn't know that you could rent camera gear online. I don't know why I didn't. It just didn't cross my mind, and when I needed something, I just went out and bought it. I definitely don't recommend doing that. That actually put me in a big hole later on down the line in my career, and it slowed me down quite a bit for growth and for new things that I wanted to do in the future. I think if I had to do it all over again, I would probably save my money and buy the gear that I actually wanted and rent everything else. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of things that I bought that I only needed for maybe one shoot or even one scene, and now it's all sitting on a shelf, hasn't been used since. But with all of that said, if you need something, again, absolutely go out and buy it. This is just my recommendation. You could always rent things out, and if you like it, then maybe consider purchasing it later down the line. This is just a great way to kind of save some of that money for some of the other things that you want to do, like maybe produce a short film or a documentary or something like that. Now, really quick, I just want to say that I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not advising you on what to do with your funds, but all in all, definitely make the decision based on what works best for you in your current situation right now. This is just what works best for me. Now, moving on to our next tip, and that is analyzing versus comparing your work to other filmmakers. Analyzing the work of other filmmakers can be a huge benefit to your work because it will raise questions and push you to create something beyond your skill set, which will then in turn provide you with new opportunities. However, on the flip side, comparison is rarely a healthy place to be because it can lead to a few different places like self-doubt, which will ultimately affect your work and slow down the progression of your career as a filmmaker. Instead, just analyze the work of other filmmakers and see how you can replicate what they're doing. See if you could pick out how they lit a scene or how they composed a shot in a specific way, and see if you can apply this to your films. Also, I just want to say that it's okay to make a bad film. For each failure is an opportunity to learn something that the majority just won't learn unless they're okay with making these mistakes. So I just want to encourage you to embrace these moments, make films, learn from them, and repeat the process. Because the truth is that we're all struggling with this in some way at all levels of the filmmaking journey. And in all transparency, this feeling never really goes away. But in my opinion, it's really important for us to know this so that we know how we can move past it when we notice that this is coming up in our minds. And because not so many people follow this advice, in my opinion, by getting better at this will only elevate your career as a filmmaker. But this actually leads me to our fifth thing, and that is to be patient and find the joy in the journey. The truth is that it really just takes time to reach your goals. And once you reach those goals, it's inevitable that you will make newer and bigger goals anyway. So instead of stressing, it's far more enjoyable to just enjoy where you are now. Finding the joy in the journey will just keep the job fun and exciting. For me, this just looks like celebrating every win, no matter how big or how small, or consistently reminding myself that I'm doing what I've set out to do and I'm doing what I love, embracing the hard stuff and learning from those experiences, as well as so many other things that just wouldn't fit in this video. I have many goals. Some are bigger picture goals where I may not reach them for years to come, and some are smaller, more attainable goals that I could reach right away. Either way, there will always be that next thing or that next big thing, so it's important to just not get stuck in the end goal, because this will only remind us how much we have to go before obtaining these goals, and that can get really exhausting and eventually lead to burnout, which I have totally experienced multiple times in my life, and it's never fun or worth it. I used to stress a lot about not being where I want to be, and I still do sometimes, but the older I get, the more I'm realizing that if I find the joy in all of the things and all parts of the journey, then I can truly enjoy all of the wonderful things that are right in front of me. Of course, there is a lot more that I want to do, and I am focused on those goals, but I'm also definitely enjoying where I'm at now. Somewhere in the beginning of my filmmaking journey, there was a moment where I realized two things. One, I'm super passionate about telling stories in this style of format. And the second thing was that I finally realized that I could potentially turn this passion into a career. Whether you have a desire or passion to be a content creator or videographer, you want to shoot weddings or client work, or you want to make TV commercials, documentaries, or short films, or all of the above. And if you're like me, chances are you've probably asked yourself the question, how can I make a living doing this? The truth is that with any business, it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's not always going to be fun, and you're not always going to necessarily get the projects that are super creative and inspiring, especially in the beginning. But even though that is true, and what's even more true and exciting is that if you stay the course, always do your best, and invest in people, in due time, you will not only receive all of the work you can handle, but also gain bigger opportunities, new friends and connections, and truly have a career as a full-time filmmaker or videographer. And that's a fact. Now, I know that's a lot to consider, but I only ever want to give you guys my best and very real advice that will actually help you and elevate you as a filmmaker, based on the experience that I have over the last 10 years or so. And the best way that I could do that is to just share my experiences and the things that I've learned. But really, in the end, it's all up to you. Your determination, passion, and dedication to your craft, for always giving it your all on every project and making things happen even when you don't want to, or even when it doesn't make sense to everyone else. This is what will make you an excellent filmmaker. This is how you will reach your goals. Well, that's gonna do it for me, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If anything, I hope it inspired you as you progress in your journey as a filmmaker. As always, if you have any questions or you wanna dive deeper in some of this other stuff, let me know down in the comments below, because I love connecting with you guys and helping out wherever I can. If you like this video or you learned something, please click the like button down below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, friends.